All right, so part B of your assignment is simply just a trigonometrical identity or a trigonometrical equation. So when you look at this equation, there was actually a mistake here. It was supposed to be cos x cos 30. This is how it's supposed to be. Then we say minus sine x sine 30 is equal to 1 over 2. So remember the identities for cos. So cos, when you have cos A plus B, so cos A plus B is simply just equal to cos A cos B minus sine A sine B. So I'm just trying to remind you about the trigonometric identity for, trigonometrical compound angle formula for cos. So this is how it is. If there is a plus here, you put a minus there. If there's a minus there, you put a plus there. That's how it works. So in this case, we have a plus there. You have to put a minus there. For sine, it's a different situation. Okay. So in this case, it means that what we have here can also be written in this format. So meaning in this case, when you look at A and B, the way they are on sine and on cos, and also you compare them to this equation, you discover that your A is simply just x, and then your B is simply just 30. So what you can do is simply just, you say cos, then while there's A there, you put x. So you're going to say cos x plus, and then while there's B, you're putting 30. Then we say this is equal to, you put your half there. So in other words, I'm trying to say this part here is equivalent to this expression there. So we put the half after writing that. Okay, so now this is very easy to solve. So we can equate this part to phi. So I'm going to say let x plus 30 be equal to phi. So the reason why we're doing this is because we first want to find so we first want to find we first want to find a reference angle. So this equation will now be, this equation can now be written as cos phi is equal to 1 over 2. While there's this expression, which is this part, I've put phi. So to find the reference angle, we're going to say phi is equal to, this will be cos inverse of 1 over 2. So the cos inverse of half is simply just equal to 60 degrees. Yeah, so cos inverse of half is simply just 60 degrees. So this one is the one that we're calling a reference angle. So this is not the final answer. So now to find the final answer, as we say, we will find the quadrants in which this angle lies, or in which this trig ratio lies. So when you look at the part this side, that we have this side is positive half. So cos is only positive when you have the XY plane, or the quadrant plane here. When you have in the first quadrant there, you know that all trig ratios are positive there. In the second quadrant, it's only sine. In the third quadrant, only tan is positive. Then in the fourth quadrant, only cos is positive. So we know that in this case, since in the first quadrant, all trig ratios are positive. So we know that since this half is positive, we're going to say this reference angle lies in what? In the first and in the third, in the fourth quadrant. Why am I saying that? Because I know that in the first quadrant, all trig ratios are positive, and then in the fourth quadrant, it's only cos which is positive. Yeah, so that is what you are supposed to do. Okay, so all right, sorry for that inconvenience. So this is just a reference angle. Like I said, since half is positive, then the trig ratio lies in the first and the fourth quadrant, because we know that it is only in the first and the fourth quadrant that cos is positive. So let us now begin to solve. So in the first quadrant, you get the same expression, I mean the same reference angle as your answer, because we know that 6 is positive in the first quadrant there. I mean, cos is positive in the first quadrant. So we say, therefore, phi lies in the first and the fourth quadrant. So after doing this, we can now start finding the solutions for x, because the question is asking us to find x and not phi. So in the first quadrant, phi, we get phi as 60. You just have to get the same angle, which is the reference angle that we found. But remember that phi is x plus 30. So where there is phi, I'm going to put x plus 30. Then this will be equal to 60 degrees. So the value of x will therefore be equal to 60 degrees minus 30 degrees. And x will now become 30 degrees. And then in the fourth quadrant, we know to say in the fourth quadrant, you say 360 minus the angle that you found. So in the second quadrant, it's 180 minus the angle that you found. And then in the angle, which is phi, that you found. Then in the third quadrant, it's 180 plus phi. And then in the fourth quadrant, it's 360 minus phi. So in the fourth quadrant, we're going to say, in the fourth quadrant, we're going to say phi is equal to 360 minus the reference angle that we found, which is 60. And this will give us 300 degrees. So remember that phi is equal to x plus 30. So we say x plus 30 degrees is equal to 300. So the value of x becomes 300 degrees minus 30 degrees, which gives us 270 degrees. So these are the two solutions that you've been asked to find. But when you look at the domain that we've been given there, so this ranges from negative 180 and 180. So they are trying to tell us to say the value of x, or the answer that you are going to find, should be from negative 180 to 180. So now, what does it mean? Does it mean that 270 is not part of the answer? The answer is yes. So the only answer that we are supposed to get, or that you're supposed to write in your conclusion, is x is equal to 30, because we know that 30 is between negative 180 and 180, but 270 is above 180, meaning we disqualify 270 and we get x is equal to 30 degrees as our answer. Okay. So let's quickly move on. Quickly move on to the next question. Do you have any questions on this question before we can proceed?
The questions are a lot. Let's proceed.
All right. Okay. So you can try to watch through the video when I post it in the group. Okay, so let's do quadratic equations. So the link is about to end. Let me just end it right now, and then you join using the same link once it ends.